Good evening and welcome to Candid Conversations with the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. This evening, we're going to talk about the maps, the congressional maps and the Senate maps, and letting you know the differences between those maps to provide clarity and opportunity for you to provide comment on our mapping portal or our public comment portal. So as the commission votes, they can hear directly from you. We have an all-star cast with us today, and we will introduce the doctor himself. We're going to speak it into existence, emanating from Wayne State University, formerly of Farmington Hills, but now of the Big D. Let's welcome the MD, Anthony Ede. Anthony, welcome to the broadcast.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Edward. Happy to be
Well,
here.
hey. And from the great place of outside of in northern Oakland County, have you ever met someone so sweet, so kind, so energetic, who loves her family and is always dapper with her hair, never afraid to try something new? The retired banker, the one who knows finances and can shop and save a penny, especially during the holiday season. Let's welcome Commissioner Janice Valette.
Hi, Edward. Thanks. That was a great introduction. Thank you. You're too kind.
And last but not least, we love graduate students who are whiz kids, witches. You can't distinguish between the two. Let's welcome all the way from Ypsilanti, but now Howe, Michigan, Commissioner Dustin Witches. Welcome to the broadcast.
Hello, happy to be here.
All right. So the commission has this process that's called collaborative maps. Can you all explain what took place and what's the distinction between a collaborative map and an individual map?
Sure, I can start. So, um, the collaborative mapping process was when all 13 of us were working together to come up with the maps, whether they were congressional, Senate, or state house. We all worked together. We all took turns going from one commissioner to the next in alphabetical order, drawing where we think a district should start, and then going through the different criteria. Um, Once one individual was done with a district, we'd move on to the next individual who could either change one particular district that was drawn or continue drawing the districts as they saw fit if they were happy with one of them, so that we could get a conglomeration of uh, all of our ideas in one particular map. And we have three collaborative maps for the congressional and for the Senate um, that we're going to be going over tonight. And each one shows different commissioners' inputs. So where one person decided to deviate and change, we went off into the next version of a map. And that's how we finally got it to the three different ones that we have proposed. And that's how we went through and drew the maps collaboratively the first time around.
Thank you so much. Commissioner Ede or Commissioner Valette, anything you'd like to add?
Well, I'd like to add that, we were still following the criteria about being compact, keeping the populations even, and everybody was commenting from the hearings that we had about the communities of interest, and we were definitely trying to keep those in mind when we were drawing the districts.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think another point about the collaborative maps, it was kind of a interesting process because we're the first ones in Michigan doing this. So we had to figure out a way where we could, as a commission, as 13 regular everyday citizens, could work together to come to some consensus and some compromises on what the maps, are going to end up looking like. So the collaborative process was really good for that because every commissioner was able to put in input. Every commissioner was able to have lots and lots of chances in drawing the maps, and all of that work went into making the 3 that we have proposed. And then finally, I think another good point is that all of the lines for these 3 collaborative maps were drawn in public during our regularly scheduled hearings. Our regularly scheduled meetings. And I believe it's the first time that a process like that has taken place, where the actual drawing of maps have been in public.
Well, let's talk about the openness and transparency. That's something that's really, really important as it comes to the process. And you mentioned, Commissioner Ede, that everything was done in public, everything was done in an open manner. Talk to us why that's so important.
Well, I think it's the basis behind this commission. I think transparency is one of the most important values that not only the commissioners but also our staff has, and the main purpose is for the lines to be drawn. When you're actually putting pen to paper, for those lines to be drawn in public, and every line on these collaborative maps were. And actually, we were able to get feedback on these collaborative maps as well, because we took them with us to our second round of public hearings. We had a few more maps than the 3 proposed maps, but during that round of public input, we were able to figure out what the best ideas were and situate them to be in these proposed maps that we have today.
So wait a minute. You mean you all drew maps with the public input in mind?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In an open and transparent manner? Because I looked on the website and I saw on our YouTube channel that there are 133 regular meetings and public hearings, as well as committee meetings. So when you add up, that's 133 meetings. You can binge watch on YouTube and see the whole process. Is that correct?
That's correct.
You'll learn more about drawing lines on a map by watching those meetings than you'd care to know about.
All right, we do have a question that's come up, and you can choose to answer it any which way you can. It comes from Anthony, and not Commissioner Anthony Ede, but Anthony, and it says, although I wouldn't expect you to say which specific ones, are there any maps under consideration which commissioners do not like for their treatment of their own hometown areas?
That's an interesting question. And I think that, at least I try to, when I was drawing these maps, when I had my turn in the collaborative process, I tried to think of the map as a whole rather than, individual areas, and tried to take into consideration what's best for the whole state rather than what's best for any singular particular area. So that's my opinion. But overall, I'm pretty happy with, how my hometowns, both in West Bloomfield and here in Detroit, are situated. Especially on the congressional maps, I think they're situated quite well.
Commissioner Valette, anything to add?
No, I'm pretty happy with what I had. I did have some issues a little bit with dividing up some of the area, around where I live, but I think that we did a great job with it. I too thought about in the whole map, but I mean, it's hard not to feel for your area, your neighborhood, your home. But I'm happy with what we have. Yes.
Commissioner Witches.
So I have the luxury of being from 2 distinct areas. One, the Howell area, which is in Livingston County, more rural, and then Ypsilanti, Ann Arbor, which of course is more urban. With that being said, every single map that we have drafted so far with the slight changes
God,
that are in those particular maps, I am happy with. You'd be able to take a look at, splitting Ann Arbor, splitting Ypsilanti, or keeping them whole together. We'd get into that more tomorrow, but for the most part, I can see pros and cons to both. However, I am able to find that each map that we do vote on will positively affect the places that I have personally lived in. And I hope that the residents of Michigan will be able to see that in their area as well.
Well, once again, we want to remind people tonight, we're only talking about the congressional and the Senate districts. And tomorrow, I repeat, tomorrow, we'll tackle the House districts. Okay, without further ado, if you're at home, you can go to www.michigan.gov/MICRC, and you can go to the home page and click on proposed maps, and you can see exactly what we're seeing on our screen. Commissioner Witches, we're going to put his screen, add him to the stream, and we're going to make it bigger. He's going to show you the areas. We're going to start with Chestnut in terms of how the districts are broken out by counties so that you can see the counties, and we'll go from there. Commissioner Witches.
So these are I took the shape file directly from the website and loaded it into our mapping software here. So as you can see, we'll start at the top. Here would be District 1, which encompasses all of the Upper Peninsula and the top half of the Lower Peninsula. Going down to District 2, we will have the Western and Mid-Michigan. District 3, Kent County, part of Muskegon and Ottawa County. District 4 is going to be the southern area of Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo. District 5 is the entire Ohio and Indiana border, which is something that we all worked on together to achieve because that was something that we heard a lot about. District 6 would be Washtenaw County. And then going down to the southern portion of Wayne. District 7 is Mid-Michigan, which would include Lansing. District 8 would be Genesee, Saginaw Bay, and Midland. District 9 is the Thumb area. District 10 is parts of Detroit, Sterling Heights. I'm sorry, not parts of Detroit. North of Detroit, Sterling Heights, Mount Clemens, Warren. District 11 is Oakland County, Farmington Hills, Royal Oak. 12, Livonia, Westland, Dearborn Heights, Dearborn. And then the final district, 13, which would encompass Detroit and Taylor and Romulus. And then this is one of the three maps that we have created in a collaborative way to get these lines where they stand at this particular point.
All right. So we know that part of the redistricting criteria requires us to have equal population and be in compliance with the Voting Rights Act. Number 2, be geographically contiguous. Number 3, reflect the state's diversity and communities of interest. Number 4 is basically partisan fairness. Number 5, no favorite to an incumbent or a potential candidate. Number 6, reflect county, city, municipal boundaries. And then number 7, be reasonably compact. When you see the Chestnut map, in terms of following it, we had our voting rights attorney at each of the meetings to review each of the collaborative maps. And then there was a score that relates to partisan fairness that people can see when they go to the website under mapping criteria data. So we go back and add this to the stream. We know that approximately 775,200 people on average has to be in each district. Commissioner Valette, and when you were going through this process and looking at that, assisting with the collaborative map, was that hard for you?
Well, actually, I thought the population was probably one of the easiest parts to do because luckily, the computer program that we used, it told us the population, it kept a running total. So I didn't find the population that difficult until we started like doing other things like community of interest and the VRA. Then we were trying to fix the population. But to start, no, I didn't find it hard at all.
Commissioner E, what do you think was your biggest challenge?
I wouldn't really call it a challenge, but I think that's one of the things that came up in the collaborative mapping. It's about compromise, right? Having everybody's input take shape in these maps, and I think the Chestnut map does a pretty good job of that. For example, in that mid-Michigan seat, I believe it's District 2, if you want to, gonna pop that back up, Dustin?
Yep.
Something that we heard from folks is that they wanted Berry County to be a part of, similar communities such as Gratiot, Isabella, and Montcalm, instead of being with District 7, which encompasses a Lansing district. And, some commissioners felt strongly about that, some didn't. Whereas other commissioners were more focused on southeastern Michigan, such as the Detroit area. So it really was about having the compromise between the different ideas and trying to figure out how to work all of those ideas together in order to come up with a product that works.
Commissioner Witt, is anything you would like to add?
I would say that I would agree with everything that Commissioner E just stated. All these are good examples of projects in compromise. We had 13 individuals taking into account many thousands of public comment, and every single one of us is going to interpret them differently. And these maps show that. They show that we try to do our best to listen to what the individuals all throughout Michigan have said. We try to come to a compromise with all of us and work together as a team of 13 individuals to discern all of the ideas that we had and put those ideas to paper. And that's exactly what we did, whether you look in District 1 or District 12 and 13. And I remember vividly, there was one time when we were working on maps in the collaborative process where we were thinking about doing an east-west split as opposed to a north-south split when it comes to the upper part of lower Michigan. And we decided as a collaborative team that we were going to stick with the ideas that we have now. And as the commission speaks as one body, after we make decisions, we all stand by the decisions that we have made.
All right, let's pull up the Birch V2, another Michigan congressional map, and let's talk about that.
Give me just a second.
Not a problem. You look, I see Commissioner Ede has a festive background. The lights, camera action. I'm getting ready for the holiday season. Very nice, very nice. And then we see Commissioner Valette has the highlights, the blonde highlights. She looks awesome. Okay, and so after we do Birch V2, we'll do Apple V2, and that will be the last collaborative map for Michigan Congressional, and then we'll go to the Senate maps. As Commissioner Witches said earlier, there's 3 maps of each, and we're only doing the collaborative maps this week, and then we will see if we can get the commissioners that submitted individual maps to come on next week. So when we meet on Thursday, if you come in person or you want to speak remotely, you can speak to one of the maps that has already been presented. If you want to alter one of those maps, you can share that during public comment period. As you know, public comments You can do on our website, either through the public comment portal or the mapping portal. If you want to go specifically to the mapping portal, you can do a pinpoint into an address on the mapping portal and place your public comments there for the commission's consideration. You can email them at redistricting. I'm sorry, you don't need to email them. You can just use the public comment portal for that. You can mail them. If you do not have internet access, you can mail them to P.O. Box 30318. Lansing, Michigan, 48910. Once again, MICRC, P.O. Box 30318, and our Lansing, Michigan, 48910, in terms of getting to the commission as well. And if there's some information or questions that you need, you can call 1-833-U-DRAW, 1-833-U-DRAW. That's 1-833-968-3729. All right, let's go ahead and put up Birch V2 for your consideration.
Okay, and I do have that map pulled up on the screen. There are just slight changes in where lines were drawn for District 1 to, well, I guess I should say all the districts, I suppose. There are just some slight differences, but the major ideas are about the same.
Okay, let's start from the top, if you don't mind, Commissioner Witches.
Okay, so again, here we have District 1, all of the Upper Peninsula and the northern portion of the Lower Peninsula. District 2, as you can see, goes a little bit further over into to Aranet County. And Midland County is something that we can talk about if we choose to. District 3 is all of just Kent County, but doesn't include Muskegon like it did in Chestnut. District 4 goes all the way down to Berrien County to create somewhat of a lakeshore district, and then going over to the east to take in Berry and Kalamazoo. This is a difference in regards to how it was in the last, because Berry was part of mid-Michigan. Here it is not. District 5 is almost the same. It's basically all of the lower counties on the Indiana and Ohio border. District 7 is still pretty much identical with mid-Michigan, Lansing area. And let's see, then we go to District 8, which includes the city of Midland instead of all of Midland County, Bay City, Saginaw, Genesee, and going into part of the Thumb. District 9 is still the majority of the Thumb going down to Monroe County. District 11 is a big chunk of Oakland County. District 12 is just going to be the northern part of Wayne. District 13 is basically Detroit, but extending into parts of Monroe. And 10 is around the leftover area for Sterling Heights and the eastern part of Oakland. Hello?
Yes. So I think something that's interesting is you can kind of see the similarities between, we have three maps. We have Chestnut, Birch, and Apple. And a lot of the same ideas are on all three of them. It's really just about the configuration of those ideas. For example, Apple and Birch have the same configuration for districts 12 and 13 in Detroit, but they have different configurations for the western part of Michigan, as you'll see when we put up Apple in a little bit. Whereas the difference between Chestnut and Birch/Apple is mainly in the Detroit area. You saw on Birch how District 13 crossed 8 Mile and went into the Warren area, and that's a difference from the Chestnut map, which stops at 8 Mile. And then another difference between this map and the Chestnut map is that in Chestnut, Southfield is with District 12, whereas in Birch, the one that we're looking at now, Southfield is with the rest of Oakland County.
All right. Thank you so much, Commissioner Ede, for sharing those differences. Commissioner Valette or Commissioner Witches, anything you would like to share?
No, I think I went through the major differences that I see on this map when I went over my little spiel of where the boundaries were. I'm trying to think of anything that stands out to me on this map, and I don't see anything at the top of my mind. I will have some things to say on Apple when we get to it.
All right. Well, then let's go to the next map, the final congressional map. Let's go to Apple V2. And once give him time to put it up. Want you to know all you have to do is go to the website, www.michigan.gov, and click on Proposed Maps. Click on Proposed Maps. And you can see the exact same maps. And then when you see View Map and it says comments, you can place your comments right there through the mapping portal if you like, or if you want to go to the public comment portal, you can just scroll down to submit public comments off the home page. Once again, if you click on Proposed Maps, you can go to the exact map and place your comment, or if you want, you can put your address in and know exactly which congressional district you would be in if any of those collaborative maps were adopted. So just want to share that with you, how you can view maps, click on Proposed Maps, and provide feedback. The commission has received nearly 25,000 public comments throughout this process. We're excited about that. Public comments come through mail, email, in-person public comments, remote public comments, whether it's by telephone or whether it's by Zoom. And once again, through the public comment portal or mapping portal. And so we just wanted to make it easy for each and every individual to participate as a part of this process, and just really excited about receiving public feedback, which really drives the whole process. In fact, that was the whole purpose of the second round of public hearings that we had that was mentioned earlier, was to hear directly from you in terms of how the commission drew the maps, and then now getting your feedback on the maps that they have drawn, whether it's a collaborative map or an individual map, you can provide comment. Okay, without further ado, here's Apple V2.
Okay, so the major difference here is I didn't scroll up all the way to the Upper Peninsula because it's the exact same district on the previous map, and District 2 is almost the exact same as well. There's some differences.
Can you just show it to them anyway, Commissioner Witches? I just want to
sure
that everyone can see everything.
Yep. So there's the Upper Peninsula, and then I'm just going to scroll down to get to the differences here. The difference here is that we gave the individuals on the west side of the state a different type of configuration on the Lake Michigan side, as well as the Grand Rapids and Kalamazoo area. There's some minor differences in the Detroit area as well. But this was one of the configurations that we put together. One thing that is very interesting to note that you can see if you watch through our mapping process, especially once we started getting to the end, is once you start changing one particular area of a map, whether it would be in Kalamazoo, Kent, Muskegon, Saginaw, Sanilac, even the Upper Peninsula in certain areas, it has a ripple effect all throughout the state. So that's one particular reason as to why you see minute changes in areas. If we were to make a change on, let's say, the west side, why there could potentially be a change on the east side of the state as well. But as you can see, the majority of these are roughly the same as the Birch map that we came and looked at about 5 minutes ago.
Commissioner Valette and Commissioner E, there was a lot about communities of interest, but specifically when it comes to neighborhoods. And as we shared at the bottom of the screen, when we're talking about communities of interest deal with reflecting historical and cultural characteristics as well as economic interests. Once again, communities of interest, we'll put it on the screen, reflect historical and cultural characteristics and economic interests. And we heard a lot about that in Flint as well as in Detroit, but also in Midland and West Michigan as well. When people talk about their communities of interest, how did that grip you? And as you heard the feedback from the public.
Well, there sure was a lot of feedback. And, there were kind of two types. There were kind of two distinct ways that I thought about it. There were the communities of interest that like nobody contested, right? For example, the Arab American community in Dearborn. No one came through and said that wasn't a community of interest or said that there was a different community of interest in the Dearborn area that should take precedent over the Arab American community of interest. And there were a lot of areas in the state that were like that. There was like I just said, the area in Dearborn. There was the Lakeshore community out in Benton Harbor, just to name a couple. But then there was a different type of community of interest where you kind of had two different interests competing with each other, based on just the people there seeing their community differently. An example of that would be in Midland. We had a lot of people saying one thing and then a lot of people saying a different thing. So, it was a little harder to hash out what to do in those areas where we had two different groups of people advocating for their communities in different ways. But at the end of the day, they still came out and advocated for their communities in the way they best saw fit. And what we were able to do is, in some maps, support one of those communities, and in the other maps, support a different one.
Yeah, and one thing that I always thought about, especially when we were doing our community of interest work to make sure that we were complying with that as best as we possibly could, is that communities of interest were groups of people sharing economic ideals or sharing social ideals. Community of interest is not where you did not want to be a part of. So, for example, if you look at District 4, this is one of the particular districts that I drew to try and work with communities of interests and other criterion that we were working with further down the list of things that we had to take into account. I mean, we have two different cities, correct? They have two different communities of interest, correct? The communities of interest are indeed whole, but it's not necessarily the fact that you don't want to be part of the other community. Your community maintained itself as best as we possibly could in this configuration, and we put you together with another community further down south. So we kept two communities of interest whole in this configuration for District 4. Now, if we've had feedback, or we've all had feedback on this particular map saying this is good, this is bad, and that's why we have this as a choice. We want to hear what the public has to say in which maps they want us to vote for. And I'm hoping that we get more public comment along the way and saying we want this map, and this map, or map X and Y and Z for each plan type, so that we can make our decision at the end of the month easier.
Right. Matter of fact, we have two upcoming meetings. We have one on December 16th at 10 o'clock that will take place at the Cadillac Place in Detroit, Michigan, the Cadillac Place in Detroit, Michigan. And then we do have a meeting where we're planning to adopt maps on Tuesday, December 28th at the Cadillac Room in Lansing, Michigan. Tuesday, December 8th at the Cadillac Room in Lansing, Michigan at 10 o'clock. Commissioner Valette, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I agree with Anthony and Dustin. It was very difficult when we did the hearings because we'd hear one speaker say one thing, and then 2 speakers later, someone else would come up and say exactly the opposite. So it was difficult for us. We had to, look at it, weigh it, and when we were drawing the maps, we were saying, what we heard the most, and and somebody would say, well, but we did hear this. So we tried to do our best, to keep the communities of interest together. And that's all I have to say.
Well, you know what? No one can wave a magic wand. Is there an expectation, Commissioner Valette, you're going to make everybody happy?
Well, that would be great if we could do that, but I don't think it's going to happen.
One thing to also keep in mind with all of our maps is that we started fresh. We took the old maps. We didn't even look at them. We started based off of where we wanted to start, whether it was in the upper area of Michigan or a different segment or region that we were working with at the time. We didn't even look at the old maps to figure out where the new boundaries should be. In hindsight, that may have been something to potentially look at to say, hey, why don't we start with a map that's currently there, even though, in my opinion, they weren't very good, but a way to say, okay, here's an idea of where a district boundary was. Let's manipulate those lines and see where we get to. However, I am extremely happy and proud of all of us for getting to the maps that we have done on in a collaborative way.
Anthony came up and just want to put the comment. There was going to be a meeting in Detroit during the final voting. That, Anthony, you're absolutely correct. There is going to be a meeting. It's going to be a week from tomorrow, December 16th, at the Cadillac Place at 10 o'clock a.m. In Detroit. Once again, there will be a meeting a week from tomorrow, December 16th, at the Cadillac Place in Detroit at 10 o'clock a.m. And then the final meeting, as of right now, is scheduled for December 28th, which is Tuesday, at the Cadillac Room in Lansing, Michigan. The Cadillac Room in Lansing, Michigan. Carmelita Beeching says, keep up the good work. I applied but didn't get chosen to be one of the 13, but it looks like a tough job. Does it look like a tough job, Commissioner Valette, or is it a tough job?
It's a very tough job. We, tried to do our best. But it was tough, trying to make everybody happy. And I just wanted to say something about what Commissioner Witches said about looking at the old map. We didn't. I think we talked about it, but we decided not to. I think that we made the best choice with that. And I think that most of the people said start fresh. There were a few people who said, look at the old map. We actually had people who said, don't change them. But the majority of the people said start fresh.
And let's also be clear that we followed the 7 ranked redistricting criteria, not the APOL standards. The APOL standards was the old way, and that did place a premium on keeping county, city, and municipal boundaries together. However, in the 7 ranked criteria, as you've heard from each commissioner, that is now number 6, not number 1, number 6 in the 7th ranked redistricting criteria. So, and the commission is bound by law to follow the 7 ranked redistricting criteria in priority order. They can't skip or go back to the APOL standards. They have to follow the Constitution. So once again, as our commissioners have shared, you can go back and look at all 133 regular meetings, public hearings, and committee meetings that have taken place in an open and transparent manner to see how these collaborative maps were drawn, as well as the business of the commission. Right now, we're going to switch to the Senate maps. We're going to switch to the Michigan State Senate. There are 3 collaborative maps, Cherry V2, Palm, and Linden. And as Commissioner Witches brings that up, we just want you to know that we're here. We're willing to take your questions, your comments. Tell your family, tell your friends that they can come on and join us. Candid Conversations is just an opportunity for us to share information, clarify information as relates to the business of the commission through this new redistricting process. This is what this is all about. But just want to emphasize collaborative maps follow the 7 ranked redistricting criteria. If you go to our website, you can look at 2 documents that really explains the whole process. You can look at Redistricting 101 and Redistricting 201. Once again, you can go to our website and you can look at Redistricting 101 and Redistricting 201. We want to acknowledge Thomas Liebman, and if I pronounce your name incorrectly, please forgive me. Thomas Liebman says, thank you, commissioners. Thank you, commissioners. Chris Glasser said, looking at the website, there are 5 proposed congressional maps. Isn't that a lot to choose from? It wasn't narrowed down at all. Once again, we have 3 collaborative maps, and that's what we're talking about today. And then next week, we'll be talking about the individual maps. Commissioner Eade, I think you have been on record talking about the number of proposed maps. Would you like to respond to Chris with regards to his comment?
Well, so it did. We did narrow them down. I think we took over 20 draft maps to our second round of public hearings, and now we have 9 collaborative maps, and then a few more maps that individual commissioners have submitted. So 2 individual commissioners submitted maps to make it go from 3 to 5. But I think, I'll just speak for myself. It's my hope that we end up adopting one of the collaborative maps for a lot of the reasons that, we stated earlier. They represent, a compromise of all of the commissioners working together. And I think that's important. And I, for one, would be happy with any of the 3 that we just went over. And I'm pretty proud of them. We followed an evidence-based, data-driven process in making the maps, and all 3 of the drafts, all 3 of the proposals that we have now are fair by any objective measure. To be honest, they're fair and they're much better. And it's pretty striking, honestly, if you look at the metrics for these maps and then compare it to the maps that were created 10 years ago in Michigan, or even compare them to a lot of the maps that are being proposed across the country in other states without redistricting, without independent redistricting commissions, there's a very large difference. So yeah, my hope is that we adopt one of the 3 collaborative maps, but there are also some individual options.
Okay. Let's go to the Senate maps, and we'll start with Cherry version 2.
All right, so that's up on the screen at this point. I'm not going to go over every single one of the districts as I did on the congressional, since there's quite a bit more of them here, but I'm just going to give a general overview. Here we have a part of the Upper Peninsula that could fit into a district, and then going down, we have the Traverse City area all the way to Sheboygan and up to Sault Ste. Marie covered in another district. So it's not the population differences allow for 2 districts there as opposed to one big district coming from the Upper Peninsula down to a big portion of the Lower Peninsula, as you can see with the number of districts. So we still have a big chunk that is going to be considered part of upper Lower Michigan. We have a lakeshore district on Lake Michigan side. We have the Muskegon area. We still have an area here at the bottom that would be the Indiana border. However, we couldn't extend it any further. Lenawee and Monroe County make up their own. We have areas here, Livingston County, Eaton County, Ingham County being part of one district, Clinton and Shiawassee being part of one, and also going down into part of Lansing. At this particular point here, we have Midland and a portion of Midland County going over to Bay, county-based city in Saginaw. Then we have an area of Flint and Genesee County, and then the remainder here from Lapeer to Saginaw being part of one. The thumb being the thumb, we still have a big giant thumb area based on the sparse population that is in the area. And then we have our Detroit districts that we drew to take into account our 7 criteria in order to get these districts drawn.
All right. For the Michigan State Senate, it's interesting to note that there's 38 Michigan Senate seats, and the average is 265,200 people per district. Once again, there's 38 Michigan Senate seats, and the average is 265,200 people per district. Commissioner Valette or Commissioner Eid, anything you would like to add to what Commissioner Witches has shared?
No.
Hearing
Well,
none. All
no.
right.
Well,
Yep.
I'll add in a few things. So, because the population differences are a little bit smaller here, it's at about excuse me, we're going from 775,000 in the congressional district to about 250,000 in the Senate districts. So because of that, we were able to look at different populations and different communities of interest in a way that wouldn't be appropriate for the congressional maps. For example, there was District 37 that contained part of the Upper Peninsula and then went westward down into the Lower Peninsula of Michigan. And one of the reasons we did that is because we were able to look up and find where the Native American communities were in Michigan and try to create a district that encompassed that community, where those individuals and their reservations were. So that's just one, and I think that was one of actually the first districts that we drew when drawing it. So I think it worked out quite well, and that's just one example of a community of interest that we're able to look at a little bit more in the Senate map than we were in the congressional.
And just to add to that, Anthony, I'd say that this was probably one of the very first points of contention that we had as a commission as a whole, is where to actually draw the lines in Mackinac County and Chippewa County to get where we wanted to be in regards to the Native American population.
Yeah, no, you're right. I actually, at first, I wanted it to go, I think I was the point of contention. I wanted it to go the other way. But, I think that's one of the good things about the collaborative process. Y'all were able to show me why it should be the other way. And, you guys convinced me that, going westward was actually the right way to go.
Just want to reiterate once again, tonight's show, Bob, just so you know, is only about the congressional and the Senate maps, only about the congressional and Senate maps. For those of you that have concerns about the House maps, we'll have our same panel that will be on tomorrow at 7:00 p.m. to talk about the House maps. Once again, if you have public feedback, you can't put it in the chat. I mean, you can, but if you want it to be considered by the commission, it needs to be on the public comment portal in the mapping portal. Once again, if you want it to be considered by the commission, please put your comments in the public comment portal or the mapping portal so that the commission can consider them when it comes time to vote. They can consider them when it comes time to vote. Okay, the next map for the Michigan State Senate is the PALM map. The PALM map. Once again, you can view the maps here. Just want you to know you can view the maps here. And also put when you view the maps, you can also put a comment, whether it's a community of interest or a concern that you have, you can put it in the mapping portal. When you click on the map, you'll see the map name, and then it says view map and comments. You can put in your comments right there. Here we go. Let's take this from Chris. I see 6 state-centered maps, not 3 on the website. That is correct. There are 6, but today we're only talking about the collaborative maps. Today we're only talking about the collaborative maps, and then next week we're going to talk to the individual commissioners to see if they're willing to come on to talk about their individual map. So just wanted to share that with you as well. All right, let's take a look at the POM.
Okay, so this was a last minute addition to the collaborative process, if I remember correctly, where we all worked together. I want to say maybe the day or two before we voted to move this map forward to the 45-day public comment period. It's pretty much identical except for the mid-Michigan area right here. I believe at this particular point, we were looking at a stricter, and I use that in a very loose term, but a stricter sense of communities of interest in the Jackson area and also the Midland area, I believe. These changes were, if I remember correctly, in a public meeting were put forward by Commissioner Clark, and then as a collaborative body, we worked to make the changes around the area, so around the areas that were adjusted to make this map as collaborative as possible to move forward.
Yeah, I think actually the only difference on this one, well, I don't know. Could you zoom into District 14? Let's see that.
I sure can.
No, okay, yeah, that's the same too. So I think the biggest difference in this map, Palm, versus the one we were just looking at, Cherry, is how the county of Jackson and Ann Arbor are configured, which is a little, District 19. Whereas in the Cherry map, you had a north-south split of this county, going westward into District 23. In this map, you have Ann Arbor, District 17 being one district, and then Jackson, along with the remainder of Washtenaw County, in 19 being a separate district.
I'll give Commissioner. I'm sorry, Edward will probably want to give Commissioner Valette here a turn, but we've heard many comments in regards to the Jackson area and Jackson County, whether it's going all the way to Ann Arbor, taking in parts of Ann Arbor, or not taking parts of Ann Arbor. So we tried to get a compromise here for people to take a look at and tell us if this is a better configuration than the other two, or the individual maps that would be on the website as well. But again, we're just discussing the collaborative ones at this point.
Commissioner Valette, can you share how the maps are distinguished? We have tree names for one and individual names so people can know the difference between collaborative and individual.
Well, our person in the Secretary of State, she helped with that. And she said she thought it would be too hard for people, and I agree, to remember, P126, -4. So she decided to name them after trees. And they were all trees that were in Michigan.
So all the collaborative maps have tree names.
Correct.
And the individual names tell who submitted individual names by the commissioner. Is that correct?
Right.
So there we go, Chris. If you want to look at which one are collaborative, look for tree names. And then if you want to know which ones are individual, you'll see the commissioner's last name and then the map that they submitted. Anything else on the Palm map? If not, let's move to the Linden map. And then that will be the last map that we cover today on Candid Conversations. Once again, tomorrow. I repeat, tomorrow, we're talking about the Michigan State House collaborative maps only. The Michigan State House collaborative maps only on tomorrow. And there's 1, 2, 3 Michigan State House Collaborative maps. They're called Pine, Magnolia, and Hickory. We'll talk about those tomorrow at 7 o'clock p.m. Oh, this is just great. Aren't you just happy to interact with the commissioners in real time and hear their expertise, whether it's Commissioner E, whether it's Commissioner Valette or Commissioner Witches? This is what it's all about: public engagement, communication, making sure people have a clear understanding about the maps, and then sharing which map would best meet their interests through our public comment portal or our mapping portal, so that the commission can consider that when they vote. And the voting date, once again, is Tuesday, December 28th. Tuesday, December 28th. The meeting starts at 10 o'clock a.m. at the Cadillac Room, not the place, the Cadillac Room in Lansing, Michigan. All right. Chris says, thank you. Thank you, Chris, for engaging with us this evening. Here is the final.
Give me 1 second. I'm gonna import it real quick.
Okay, I'm sorry.
With it, so
I want you guys to know this is a live show, not a tape show. This is a live show. The smiles you see are real, not candid camera. It's Candid Conversations. Once again, we have 3 collaborative maps for Michigan State Senate. We have Cherry V2, we have Palm, and we have Linden. Cherry V2, Palm, and Linden. And the one that Commissioner Witches is bringing up for us right now, are we ready to go, is the Linden map.
It's still counting down. It's just being imported into the we're about a third of the way done.
All right. I just want to thank Commissioner Witches for his expertise in doing this so it can be very practical. We know that people are visual and kinesthetic learners, and we just want to make sure that we're providing it so that you can understand the maps that the commission has voted on in a collaborative manner.
And I think we should probably point out that all 3 of these maps were originally based off of the Cherry map. Going back to our second round of public hearings a few months ago, we had a few different proposals, but the feedback that we got from those 5 public hearings across the state were that Cherry was the most preferred map by the public. And then we took a look and did a deeper dive into the analysis of it and found that it also had the best metrics. So we then took that Cherry map and improved it. It became Cherry V2. And then we decided to do the Palm configuration and then the Linden configuration. So this is another situation where you'll see a lot of similarities between all 3 of the proposals.
And I think that was the biggest point to take home in regards to the collaborative process, is seeing that we had one map and then making changes together as a commission of 13.
All right, let's bring up the Linden map.
But Linden is indeed on the screen at this point. Again, the Upper Peninsula and the northern part of the Lower Peninsula of Michigan is the same, as well as the most of the western side. But here you can see that there are differences again in Washtenaw County. We have Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor split. Jackson going further over into Ann Arbor at this particular point. And I think the major changes, correct me if I'm wrong, were in the Detroit area with this particular map to take into account Detroit neighborhoods. Again, forgive me if I'm saying something incorrectly here.
So I think the biggest difference with this one is again that Jackson, Ann Arbor, Washtenaw area, and it was kind of we had Cherry that had 2 districts that went pretty far westward into Calhoun County, and then we have Palm that keeps it a little bit more regimented in having Ann Arbor be its own thing, and then Jackson be its own thing. This is kind of a middle ground between the two, where you have a split in Ann Arbor, but it doesn't go as westward as the Cherry map, and instead you see District 17, St. Joseph and Branch. It goes up into Calhoun to make up that population difference.
Correct.
Dustin, could you zoom in to Metro Detroit? Let's just talk about what these districts encompass a little bit, because I really like what we did with District 3 here. We had specific feedback during our second round of public hearings from the Asian Pacific Islander community of interest, along with Bengalis and Yemenis in the area. They brought a specific map to us and showed us, hey, we have a couple precincts in District 10 that they wanted in District 3. And because they let us know of that issue, when we came back after that second round of public hearings, we were able to make that change and encompass more of that community in District 3.
All right. Let me switch it back. Okay. Any other questions or feedback that we want to talk or share with the Linden map? Commissioner Valette?
No, I'm good.
All right. Commissioner Witches, anything? Commissioner Ede?
Well, I think like with the congressional maps, I'd be perfectly okay with any of these three being adopted, and it's because all three of them are fair. We set out on this process to make three maps that are fair. A congressional map, a House map, and a Senate map, and all of these three choices fit the Michigan constitutional criteria. And like I said before, all of them are significantly more fair than what's happened in the past and what's going on currently across the country. I think that's what we need to keep in mind, that if we do adopt these maps, it shows that this kind of citizen-led process, where you have everyday folk choosing their politicians instead of the politicians choosing their voters, it can work.
I would have to agree.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you have the finest of the finest, one of the finest, I should say, three of the finest of the 13 commissioners right here: Commissioner Ede, Commissioner Valette, and Commissioner Witches. And guess what? It's not over. We will be back. I repeat, we will be back tomorrow night at 7:00 p.m. and we'll take our time to go over the three. I repeat, the three collaborative maps for the Michigan House. Once again, when we're talking about the Michigan House, it's 110 districts. I repeat, 110 districts with 91,600 people in each district, with 91,600 people in each district. Anything else you would like to share before we close? Commissioner Ede, we'll start with you.
I think we've said it a whole bunch of times, but there's still time for people to have their voice heard. Our next meeting is December 16th, right here in Detroit. So come join us and look forward to hearing from you.
All right. Commissioner Valette?
No, I just wanted to thank everyone who tuned in and like Anthony said, please join us.
Thank you. And last but not least, Commissioner Witches.
Well, I want to just extend my thanks to everyone that came to Candid Conversations today. I look forward to being back here tomorrow, and I hopefully will see you in person at our next meeting in Detroit. And if I don't, I hope you go online and leave public comments as to which maps you wish to have us vote for as the final adoption.
Thank you so much. This has been Candid Conversations with the Michigan Independent Citizens Redistricting Commission. Please tune in tomorrow and tell some other Michiganders they can tune in tomorrow at 7:00 p.m. when we'll talk about the Michigan State House, the 3 collaborative maps for the Michigan State House at 7:00 p.m. Thanks so much for joining us and have a good evening.